In the past, building any type of cold email setup would take over 10 tools, a bunch of different enrichments that you're always testing to see which one's the most up-to-date, most recent, most valid data sources. And in this video, I'll be showing you what Outbound will look like in 2026 and moving forward. So in this demo, I'll be showing you how to build an entire campaign that would normally take Clay, at least 6 other tools, a copywriter, and as well like 6 hours of working on these campaigns. I'll be showing you how to do that in 45 minutes or less. This video won't be 45 minutes long, but just taking into consideration like building out your ICP, reviewing the copy, everything, you could safely assume that it'll take you 45 to an hour for you to build it. So in this video, I'll be giving you a breakdown of how you can do this for yourself using 2 tools. First one being Prospeo, second one being Claude Code. And before jumping into the demo, just want to give you a quick introduction of who I am. I'm Will Breton, the growth manager at C17, where we do roughly 2 million emails a month. We're really at the cutting edge of all of this sort of lead generation, revenue generating systems on how to do cold email at scale, cold LinkedIn at scale, even cold calling at scale, and how to, at the big picture, get attention to your business. So in this video, I'll be showing you what we're putting into the works and sort of what we're exploring as things evolve. As you know, AI is constantly evolving, and this is one of the things that we started to look into. And without further ado, let's jump into the tutorial. Awesome. So now that we're in my computer, let me give you a full glance of the entire workflow that we're building here. First thing is I'll show you how to get your Prospeo API key, basically just how to integrate it with Claude Code. Should be super quick. For you, it'll probably take 5 minutes. Next is defining our ICP. So I have one predefined. I assume this will take you 3 minutes, just depending on if you have a little bit more of a complicated ICP. Then we'll pull the companies, pull the people, dedupe them, and then as well, I'll show you one of the cool things of what kind of makes Claude Code one of the biggest differentiators for me, at least, of shifting to Claude Code and sort of exploring this type of list building more and more, writing the copy, and then finally going through the steps of actually launching this. So let's go into the Prospeo part. So first you'll need to create an account naturally, and then you'll log into the platform, copy your API key, and then feed it to Claude Code. So this is what Prospeo looks like on the homepage. You'll click on your little icon, you'll click into integrations or any of the settings, click on API, and then right here, if you don't already have one, you'll need to create one, but if you already have one, you can just copy it right here. So I've already done this, but what you'll do next is feed it to so you'll go here, basically just say like, here's my Prospeo API key, and then you'll paste it at pk_code. As I said, my Claude already has it. And then as well as a little bonus, feeding the docs to this guy is just super beneficial. It just makes sort of the searching a lot easier. So that's what we'll start with. Here's the Prospeo API docs. One thing that you should note is that once you give this to Claude Code, he'll remember and he won't have to pull this again, but just I think it's the initial piece. Does not hurt to feed this and sort of train the skill on it. So we'll just let this run and I will be right back as soon as this is done processing. Now that it's all done processing, as you can see, it kind of went through all the pages, give itself some references of how it can reference this later. And then as well, this line right here, want me to update this to your memory file? I just said yes. And then now this will be built in. Moving forward, one thing is if there's any updates, I would just rerun this process just so it's always up to date. So part 2, defining your ICP. So I'll show you how I like to do this. Typically just talking directly to Claude. And in this case, we are building a PR agencies list. Otter PR will be our lookalike for this. If you're not familiar, it's I'll just pull this up. This is Lead Gen J's PR agency. He's big in the PR space, also the lead generation space. Yeah, just using his agency as a lookalike for this campaign. So let's get into it, and then some of the headcount, which I will just talk through right now. By the way, I use Whisperflow as a dictation tool, just super accurate, and been a really big fan recently. So yeah. So I'm looking to build a list of PR agencies using the Prospeo API. Initially, just give me a list of like 20 companies so I can get a feel for how these look. I want these to all be between the 20 to 50 employee count range. I want these to all be US agencies as well. And if you need any sort of inspiration, I would go to the PR or otterpr.com website to sort of like visit their website, look at their keywords, and just get inspiration of how they kind of describe themselves, and that'll help you with your search. And then one thing as well that I forgot to mention and do at the beginning is just putting Claude into plan mode. So you do this by pressing on Shift Tab, and then we're just going to be in in plan mode until we kind of have the whole thing built out. In this situation, like this is all going to be testing for me, like it's not going to be real list building, but at one point they're going to tell us how many companies we actually have in like this TAM that we could actually scrape from the 20 to 50 head count and what we can kind of do from there. Yeah, like we can see right here, 408. I won't run all 400, but just when it would be time to run the 400, I would turn off plan mode and then run the rest. Heavy NYC, concentration, list in general, all this. For this case, it's fine. Like the way that we hold this. As you can see, like it's already kind of noticing like PR talent isn't, PR agency. Like I assume it's a recruiting agency who hires for PR companies. 408 is fine for this situation, but ideally just overall, just like big picture on like list building, go for bigger lists and smaller lists. Smaller lists just tend to kind of go against the point of cold outbound, which is sort of mass outreach that's targeted. Just always think of how you can make your campaigns bigger, and 400 just isn't worth the build for this, if that makes sense. So lots of ways you could do this. One could be scraping more agencies that this might make sense for and including them in this search. Another one would be the head count. Another one would be geography. And then later it could also just be the head count, or sorry, not the head count, the titles that you're pulling. Lots of ways you can do it, but for now we'll just continue with this. So cool, we have a list of 408 companies and we are ready to move into steps 3 and 4. So we have those companies, and now what we want to do is pull these people. So we'll just copy this since I already have it. Find max 2 people. Awesome. So as you can see, right, pulled 31 people from these 20 companies, giving us their LinkedIn, which isn't clickable here, but in the CSV it will be. No matches for these companies. Only return 1. Yes. Very cool. So what we'll do now, or you know what? No. So enrich for emails, companies with at least one person with a valid email. I want you to run the personalization waterfall. What we want to do now is, if one of these companies, happens, it's ICP, and we do get a good email for them, we want to run this personalization waterfall right here. So this is just something that I think makes Claude Code kind of stand out versus like the typicle Clay builds that you would do. Biggest reason being, this is technically one Clayagent prompt. This as well, this as well, this as well. But what I've done is, before this video, I created a personalization waterfall, which kind of combines all of these signals into a workflow of, if you can find the hiring one, we'll say that. If you can, and then second, look for the client logo one, and then third, look for the tech stack one, then look for the bio, and then worst case, we have a fallback. So what this does in a campaign is it simplifies things so much. Like we don't need variants as much anymore. We don't need separate campaigns, which is usually the case where we would need a completely different campaign just to send like just the hiring data once. And we'll just all of that. All the hiring signals, we'd have to run through it. And this kind of just runs through everything on its own, which is really, really sick. And I'm going to turn on accept all, just because right now it's, won't let it happen. Right now what it's doing, it's scraping every single website to get the hiring data and then look at the sort of like the trusted by data, or like to see what clients they've worked with in the past. Because that's, this isn't necessarily one of the personalization waterfalls that I would normally run. I just wanted to build something quickly to show the logic that you can add into this. And if you have a workflow that works really well, and maybe it's the hiring workflow, if there is one, maybe it's a growth, like, hey, notice your sales team's growing a lot. Do you guys need support on the on the lead finding side of things, right? So that's one of the biggest things. You can kind of have your own priority. You update the flow as you learn more, and it's kind of just a one-worded kind of request to Claude where it's, hey, use the personalization waterfall and run this for me for all of these companies, and just give me sort of the final output of what it would look like based on how I like to write copy and all of that. So yeah, after this, we'll be getting into the copywriting side of things, which I'm excited to show you. All right, so here's the breakdown of the signals I could find. 7 of the companies were only able to find sort of that fallback, so like none of these signals actually made sense. As well, I'm realizing it right now. The tech stack one, like this was really just for the purpose of the video. This doesn't really make sense for a lot of use cases unless you're kind of like a competitor to another tool they're using. It was kind of just to show that you could, with Prospeo, you can pull this data, which is the biggest thing, but not necessary to really like pull this in this specific case. Right, so just wanted to highlight that. But for the strong lines here, where we could find like client stuff or hiring, it's like your client roster reads like a Michelin guide for season 2. That's cool. I've reached on that, and I'll actually just open the document. So here's what the document looks like so far. So we have the company, we have the contact, we have the email. So leads, they're verified, we have their titles. Yeah, cool. And here's a little bit of logic of how the signal was actually built. So one column was for the first line, the signal type, where it came from, and then how confident it is. And let's see how it shows here. So first line, the signal type, sort of the raw stats that it pulled, and then how confident it is about it, which is cool. Crisis and change caught my eye. Yeah, it's not like the strongest fallback line, but you see how it's personalized though, which is the biggest point of this. Definitely requires a lot of fine tuning as well for it to be big picture relevant to a lot of people. Like there's a lot of fine tuning that needs to be done here, but at least getting some stuff that looks pretty solid. Saw 30 open roles, fallback. The one thing I really like is that the fallback isn't just like a standard line. It's still relevant to what they found on the website. So that's really cool. Next, let's write the copy for this. I will be using C17. We offer cold email / lead generation services to B2B clients. Don't have to mention B2B, but just giving you context, and then as well study the website to understand what cold email is and all of that. Cool, that should be clear enough. We can always review it. But now we will be getting into the copywriting skill that I have developed for Claude, where it'll write a campaign brief, give us kind of like ideas for variables that we could run as well, just give you the full copy that we would need for this, that we would be able to take directly into the sequencer. So yeah, we'll just let this continue loading. But as you can see, that skill just loaded in. A lot of this stuff you might be thinking is kind of like already pre-built into my Claude Code, but this is just to show you that once you have this built and you mention words like, hey, we're like assigned to write an offer, it knows to kick in that skill. And think of skills as like SOPs of like, these are the best practices that we want to use. These are how we like to, say things that we will never say. Quality assurance checks, do it before sending it back to me. As well, formatting standards that you want to do. That's one of the biggest benefits of using Claude Code. You might have like a Clayagent prompt that kind of just lives as like a template within Clay. Maybe you have it stored somewhere else, but usually it'll just live within Clay and you'll be kind of copy pasting it everywhere. Now you're in a situation where every time you talk about copy, this kicks in. So that's one of the biggest benefits of using Claude Code. This just happens super quickly, but first name, first line, here's the copy, signature, and then it gives us kind of the breakdown that I like to use. It gave us as well, should be subject lines. Subject lines right here. Yeah, I'm at pipeline, new clients, quick question. Happy to test those, different styles, 4 emails in here as well. And then as well, biggest piece that I was saying, this QA check at the end. So like no phrases that you can't say, no spam words, no special characters. All the variables follow the smart lead style, only short dashes, and then the piece right here. So these are case studies taken from the website. So it just helps with the copy. Cool. And then that generated that brief. Awesome. So let me pull up that brief for you. All right, so I can't zoom in, but this is what a brief would look like. I would like to use background, ICP, what offer we're running, the waterfalls of just how these signals exist, what variables exist as well, subject lines, and then the copy, and then an example of what the copy actually looks like. So let's read this super quickly. So email 1A. Hi, Becca. Your client roster reads like a Michelin guide, 4 seasons to Yeah, dang. PR agencies, your size you usually get a ceiling. Froze dry up. We help. I would honestly just push this to another line. I'd also clean this up to say similar services. I see what it's doing here. I think it's taking another case study that doesn't exactly align. I think it's looking at Filter King in this example. We helped a similar, so I would update this before launching, update this as well, but I don't mind this type of line. Running a pilot where we cover everything, 5K, that's on the website, cool. Worth exploring, cool. I'm happy with that. Email 1B, saw you're hiring 3 account roles. Looks like the client load is growing. Do you have a reliable way to bring in outside of referrals? We've been helping. So I would actually just ask Claude Code, hey, I don't want this social proof line. I would use a different one in this situation. But again, for your own clients and for yourself, this will be different, since you could also just feed which case study you want to use, especially if you already have one similar to the targeting that you're going for. Like if you had a PR agency, like in this case, a PR agency that you already worked with, you would use that as your case study, right? Circling back, a firm so it was stuck on, cool, a little bit of proof. 3, not sure enough blood, but we put together a breakdown of how you want me to send it your way. I like that. Did I close this out, or is the timing just off? No worries. If someone else at the company handles new business development, happy to reach out to them. Yeah, that works. And then you get a full breakdown of all the variables, all the signals. So let's say we're happy with that. I would change the case study, but in this case, like I won't be launching this campaign, just showing you the concept. And at this point is where, depending on which sequencer you're using, in my case, I'd be using Smart Lead. So all these variables are built for that. If they were built for Email Bison, as you know, the variables will be slightly different. All you have to do is build in that API, or just give in the API key. I would again give the docs just to make Claude's life a little bit easier. And then I would say import this, split it however you want to, add my inboxes, add the subject line, and then just make sure the sending schedule looks good. And then you would be ready to launch that campaign. And yeah, that's the end of the video. Just wanted to film this to show how I think Outbound is shifting in 2026 and moving forward. Like what we were able to do is launch a campaign that we could have launched at scale if we wanted to, if we just said, hey, like run the rest of these companies. We would be using 2 tools, primarily Prospeo and Claude Code. For the average person, I think it would take roughly 45 minutes to launch this, just if you're starting from scratch. Like the same way that you can build your like copywriting skill, a formatting skill, a bunch of stuff like that. Realistically, you could have your offers prepared in advance. It could know which industries you want to target next, so it would have the filters kind of ready to go. And it's just crazy to see what it can do. One thing that I haven't reviewed thoroughly is not the lead verification quality, if that makes sense, but it's just in the past using other tools, sometimes it's easy to rush through the process. Like it's easy to go, oh yeah, like these look fine, and then let me just trust this. Ideally, run this through another tool just to double check and make this part of your process. But this workflow that we just worked through is very easy to templatize, where you would go, Claude, the process goes like this. First, we get the companies, pull anything custom we want from those companies, make sure they're ICP as well, make sure they're actually the actual type of company we're looking for. So PR companies using lookalikes is a big one to help you do this better. And then I would add more complexity to the lead finding part, that third step, just to make sure that, double check that these are all real people. Like these are all pulling up to actual pages. It's just double check that, make sure they're still working there, use multiple tools to verify, update this, maybe even in like a database that you have to like store all of your leads and everything that lives in there. So that's where I would add more complexity. But for someone who's not doing this kind of day in, day out, you don't need all of this complexity. It's just when you get into the more advanced, whether you work in an agency or you're just running a large outbound system at your company, that's the kind of stuff that you have to be thinking about. So yeah, so if you would like to start using Prospeo, I can add a link of that platform in the description. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful. And if this was your first time seeing Claude Code in action, I hope you decide to test it out for yourself. All right, see you in the next one. Bye-bye.